Hello and welcome to another Rox 3D Studio tutorial. Today I'm going to go over the basics of the Blender interface. This is kind of a redo of an older version of this video that I did a few years ago. So I just thought I'd do a similar video but with the new version of Blender. I hope this helps you kind of get your feet wet into the software and kind of get you on your way into 3D modeling. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, first thing, to get Blender, go to blender.org. You can click on the download link on the top menu here or this button down below. And this will always bring you to the latest iteration of Blender. You can choose your operating system between 32 or 64-bit. And you also have a choice between an installer to install it on your system or the zip folder where you can just unzip that and you could put it on a thumb drive and swap it between your PC and laptop, for example, and you can just run it right off the USB memory. I usually go for the zip, just more efficient for me. So when you do either one of these things, you can go ahead and open Blender. If you do choose the zip file, you will have, of course, the zip, and you can unzip it, and you have the folder with all the files in it, and just double-click the Blender icon here. Not the player, but just Blender. So once you open that up, you have your splash screen with an awesome piece of artwork here, and that changes with every version of Blender. So in 2.79 this is going to be another piece, and it's going to be equally as awesome. You have recent links that recent files that you've been working on, and links on the left say the Blender website or the documentation on the website, which is a really good resource to use. So click anywhere in the window to make that go away, and you have your default Blender layout. You have your 3D view here with its tools panel on the left. You have the animation timeline at the bottom with its controls, the playback controls. In the top right, you have an outliner, which is a good way to keep your scene organized. And also below that, this long window here is the properties window, which has properties tabs along the top, which give you access to pretty much every function you're going to need to create anything. And as you can see, I was easily able to make this wider. The interface is very customizable, and it takes a little bit of getting used to how to mess with it, but let me go over some of the features. This little button on each of these windows opens up the same menu. So down here in the 3D view, you have, of course, the 3D view, but I could change it to a timeline, the graph editor, UV image editor, etc. So that button on every window it gives you the same options when you open it up. So in essence, if I wanted like a 3D view up here, I could switch it to a 3D view. And then I just have to go back to outliner to bring that back. You can also open up panels that are hidden with the little plus sign here. If I click on that, that brings up a properties panel for the 3D view and any object that you have in it. So the cube is selected right now. I could change its location, rotation, etc. using these fields here, or of course within the window. You can also close this by dragging it, and of course that little button comes back. And you also, the hotkey for this panel is N, so you can just toggle that at will as well. And on the left you have the tools panel, which of course you can drag closed and use the little button to open it up, or the letter T will toggle that. You can also, I don't know why you'd ever use this, but if you drag the little header here, it'll close, and you can use the little button to open that back up. I've never seen a need to actually close that little bar, menu bar. And as you can see, the interface is very customizable. You can resize everything. You can split the windows if you want. This little hashtag in the top right, you just click and drag the direction you want to split the windows. And now you see I have a 3D view side by side here. I have the same tools panel on each window, so it basically just copies what you already have in the initial window when you split it. To rejoin the windows, just right click on the separation and just pick join, and then you can see that it grays out the window that's going to close down. So if I choose this, it brings us back to our normal setup. And if you want, you could split these windows, you know, any number of ways and make a mess of your interface. It's not handy, but I mean, of course, if you need 16 windows open, go for it, but it just kind of shows you how customizable the interface is. Along with the default, you also have some presets that are good, like starting interfaces for different things. You have a 3D full view. You have an animation interface, so it'll put up your, your S-curves for your animation. Timeline's still at the bottom. You have your 3D view. You have another camera perspective up here, and the outliner and the properties window kind of remain in the similar locations. You have a compositing window, which gives you the node editor and your composite window and your 3D scene. Game logic has all your game logic blocks and settings and controls at the bottom here. Motion tracking, and there's scripting if you're a coder, and UV editing. These are just like suggestions, and video editing. So, you know, you could click on video editing, but if you wanted to switch, you know, this to something else, you could switch it to UV image editor or whatnot. So any of these preset interface designs, you can customize them just as you would the default. You can save your interface preferences. So if you don't, say you don't want to start every time you start at Blender, you don't want to have that cube there. You just want it gone to save you that one extra step of deleting it. Just go up to File and Save Startup File. I'm not going to do that here because it's going to just overwrite the default, which I want to keep as is for the moment. But you can just save startup files, so when you go back to open your Blender file, it's going to open up as you saved it. You can also load the factory settings, which reverts it to its original settings. So if I go ahead and save that, save startup file, I'm going to close, and then, whoops, go ahead and open this back up. Now, cube's gone. If I reload factory settings, there we go. And then I could just save that as the startup file. And now it'll just be back the way it was. So I hope that gave you a little insight in how the Blender interface is set up and how to tweak it. You can customize it any which way you want. Just play around with it, get comfortable. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.